It's a big, giant world we live in. A world where people from Ireland to London to Paris to New Guinea, Antarctica, Iowa, Des Moines, Maryland, Australia, and islands in between all live in harmony and peace, seeking desperately to be friendly and happy and content. People that realize that in the end, we all want the same things, and we're hoping that we can just be happy, fed, and no longer have to be concerned about viruses that essentially have a really good rate of return when it comes to survival. And yet, in order to find all of those people together in one happy little 7 o'clock Central Standard Time gathering, you got to have something special, something with bells and whistles and tulips. Well, I've got the bells, got the whistles. Afraid the tulips are on back order. The good news is, whether you are in Antarctica or in Arctica or in Art or Kita or you're here with me today at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And oh my Lord, are you blessed. It's Brad Stine Has Issues. And if I'm not mistaken, my son has my theme song. Do it. Oh. Oh, I don't know. I know we bring it up every time. So before we get there, let's start with my sponsor. I've got one, just one guy, one poor guy hanging on by a thread. This is Brad Stine Has Issues, brought to you by Christian Podcast Central, the aggregate of great, amazing Christian podcast content. And this is Brad Stine Has Issues, where comedy, conservatism, and Christianity collide in a cacophony of clarity. I am God's comic, Brad Stine, and if this is your first time watching my show, I'm angry. Because you should have been watching last week and the week before that and many weeks before that. And then you could have come on and you could have talked with all my buddies. But you know what you don't get to do? I'll tell you what you don't get to do. You don't get to be the first person on. That belongs to who, Wyatt?
Nick Kress.
Nick Kress gets on first. Don't ask me how. Don't ask me why. But I bring it up every week because I'm flabbergasted. Wyatt, why can nobody beat this guy to the punch? Who is Nick Kress? Who is he bought out? What kind of Russian conspiracy is this guy? And what does he know that we don't?
Are we sure Nick Kress is even a person? He might be a bot or something.
A what?
A bot. Bot. Basically a script somebody programs to just constantly look for when we go live and just immediately snatch first place.
Nick Kress, are you a bot? If he was a bot, could he answer? Would he know I was talking to him?
If he was a bot, if he's not a bot, could he say through a list of pictures determine which ones have traffic lights in them?
I don't know. I don't know anything about bots. You're the one that brought up the bots. I didn't ask you to bring up.
Okay, so have you ever tried to log on to a service and it asks, "Are you a robot?" And you click, "No, I'm not," and the computer is not impressed and has like 12 pixels, and it says, "Find the ones with traffic lights or stop signs."
I've seen that. What are you trying to say?
I'm saying,
robots have created that?
No,
it's another dimension that they live on that's built on squares and pixels?
No, what I'm asking is, could Nick Kress pass one of those?
Ooh. Hey, guess who's number 2?
Well, I know who is not. Nick Kress.
No, that's true. But Karen Boyd's number 2. Hi, y'all. Hi, Nick. Hey, Michael Sean Garrett. Good to see you. Erlinda Gutierrez Pitriello. Hi, Mr. Stein. Hi, Erlinda. Deanna Miller's here. Paula Faye Marie Rauchi's here. Happy April. Yes, it is. It's feeling springish. Let's see. Brian Winkler. Josh Sipes is here. I'm on the road, but I'm here. God bless you. Emily Smith. Molly Prince. Sherry Holtz-Jordan. Hi, made it. Hi, Brad. Hi, honey. Barbara Duvall, she's here. Love to have her. Hello, Brad. Ready for your issues, Earl Shank. They're coming, my friend. They're coming. Rebecca Daly Dwyer. Hello from Bellefonte, Pennsylvania. Hello to Wyatt also. And Tawny Broom. Terry Temple. Hi, Brad from Mississippi. Good to have you, Mississippi. Matty Rowe. And Earl Shank. Yes, Wyatt does. Whatever that meant. What's your issue tonight? It's coming, Molly. Will you hang on? What is it with Molly, Wyatt?
I couldn't tell you. Look, we're still on the cusp of the Nick Cress fiasco, okay?
Yes.
Do I have time to talk about another one?
Right. G'day, Brad from Tugarong. Now, when they say g'day and Tugarong, that's got to be Australia, Wyatt. Can you believe it? Australia's checking in.
Wait.
How bad have things gotten in Australia, Wyatt? I thought it was bad when they took away their guns and became a police state and turned them into convicts, which, by the way, is what started the country in the first place.
Wait, they're from Australia? Oh, okay. In that case, doing you all how?
What?
I'm speaking Australian.
Do it again.
Doing you all how? I'm speaking Australian.
Oh, because you're doing it backwards, just like the
wow,
toilet
way to
flushes
explain the
wrong
joke,
way.
Mr. Comedian Man.
Stop it. We're calling me Mr. Comedian and Man. You don't know either one of those two things. Brian Winkler's here, you know. Hey, it's Tommy Boy again. Tom Cotter, he is there. Aloha from Hilo, Hawaii. Joshua Paul. Hey, Hawaii's here. Good to have you. I did one of those. If you're from any place else outside of Hawaii, you'll think that I'm doing hook'em horns or a satanic symbol. Wyatt, what do you think it is? Hook'em horns, satanic symbol, or Hawaii? You were in Hawaii once.
I always thought it was like surfing thing, you know? I mean...
It is.
Actually, it's either that or I'm on the telephone.
Hey, guess what? Shane Burgess just said, I just found you the other day. Wyatt, I didn't know I was lost.
I didn't know she was looking for you.
I didn't either. I knew somebody was trailing me, and I kept getting behind pillars, and thank God for pillars. How would you escape someone shadowing you if there wasn't a pillar to duck behind?
A column.
Well put. Who else is here? Molly Prince, nope. John Green, hi, Brad and White from Northern Ireland. Love your show. John, you should love my show. You're from Northern Ireland, and my goodness, you guys have taken all kinds of shelling and bombings for how many years? Hope that's finally passed. So I'm glad you got a show you can watch off with. The only thing that bombs is me. Huh, Wyatt?
Oh, yeah, I know that.
Hey, look what Nick said. I'm not a robot, which is exactly what a robot would say. Okay, these robots are getting sophisticated, Wyatt.
Then again, it's also what a not robot would say.
Oh, nice. John Diedrich said hello from Omaha. Tom is not a bot. That's what he says. Nick Kress, Mark Safe from Nick Kress. Haha. Thomas Eva. John, hello. How are you doing? Message, let me chat. Message me, let chat. What? Thompson Eva. John, hello. Oh, it's, you know what this is? This is something that shows up now and again, where somebody shows up and they're women that try to get men to subscribe to them, and they end up usually being those of ill repute. What, you know? Have you ever known a woman of ill repute?
I haven't really met many women.
Okay.
In general.
You know why? They don't go to Lowe's, because who needs a socket wrench if you're a woman and you have a man taking care of you?
You'd be surprised. It's a non-zero number, which isn't much, but it's still weird.
Okay, guess what Jonathan Salcedo said? Brad Stine, I appreciate you for telling the truth and being funny. You brighten my day. Thank you. I brighten his day, Wyatt. Now, don't you think the sun might take umbrage with that?
Yeah, especially because, you know, it's night.
Yes. Or is it? He might be in Australia.
Oh,
you didn't think about it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I need to translate that into Australian. Night.
Hey, Steve Whaley came back. He said life's been throwing him a curveball, but he's back, and I'm here to set things straight. God bless you. Got your back. Rio Grande Valley's here. Bennett Clements. Let's see who's also here. Aaron Waltich. Marsha's here. I attended a women's conference at the Ark Encounter this past weekend. Learned so much. Already signed up for the next year. Any ladies interested going, let me know. Okay, well, I'm not a lady, so it will have to be somebody else, and hopefully they're not a bot. Can you imagine if a bot showed up, Wyatt?
Yeah, and you can easily defeat them. Just have a few pictures of photographs and ask them which one's a triangle, and when they're confused, you run for it.
Yes, good. Thomas,
there
she is. Whoever this Thompson Eva is, can you get rid of her? She's fake. Can you do that for me, son? Yeah, it's one of these girl bots. She's you'll see her, Thompson Eva. Anyways, she's a fraud, so ban her. Anyways, who else is here? Hang Loose is the hand sign for Brian Winkler. And here, where do you get your haircut? Fantastic Sam's. Yes. First time here, but love watching your videos. Great stuff. Hey, how are you doing, Aaron? Hi from Brunswick. So we got a lot of folks here from all over. And also, hi from New Jersey, Southern New Jersey, the good part. And that's Christy Mart Crozier. Well, good to have you guys all here. Listen, I got to tell you where I was over the weekend. I was in Phoenix, Arizona, actually, and Scottsdale, to be perfectly precise. And I was working a one-nighter with two comics, Kevin Jackson, who has the Black Sphere. He's a black conservative who was on Fox for quite a few months, and then he got fired because he called somebody, some woman, a skank, which isn't a good word. Anyways, it was a Twitter, but he sent it out and he got fired. But he was there. And then I also was there with Tim Wilkins. Tim Wilkins, if you don't know, is a comic. And he also was the opening act for Bob Saget and was actually there open for him. They did the show. They said goodnight, and that's when Bob died. So Tim was the last comic to ever work with him. And him and Kevin and Tim and I did the Unapologetically American event, and that's part of what I'm doing. You know, I've been telling you guys for quite a while that I've been trying to add live events to my touring that is more than just comedy. I've always said to myself, can I do more? Can I leave more? Can I be funny, hopefully poignant, hopefully sophisticated, hopefully interesting, hopefully smart? But to do that, I've found that it's sometimes better to partner with other people that are on the same wavelength. So the Unapologetically American are three conservative Christian comics, all very different, all with a very different vibe, but it was great, and we're hoping to do a lot more of those shows, so keep your eyes open. If you know the Epic Times, they came out, they love the show. I think they might get involved with it, so that's exciting. I like their material that they put out. And even had a cousin of mine, Greg Kuntz, and his kids, Michael and Tina, come out. They're my cousins, and they showed up. I haven't seen many of them in, I don't know, 30, 40 years. So that was kind to see them. So if you're out there, Greg, thanks for coming. That was a blast. But I did come across something interesting to me this week, Wyatt. I don't know if you are aware of this or not. Are you familiar with the Babylon Bee?
Oh, yeah. I know them.
Tell me, what is it about the Babylon Bee that you know?
Well, first of all, they love alliteration.
Yes, he's right. What else about the Babylon Bee?
Well, they are a satirical news site, and the audience can't see this, but I'm using air quotes.
Did you have to be that sarcastic with the satirical?
It's not sarcastic. It's called explaining to the audience what they cannot see.
Why can't they see you? Why?
Because, once again, you have failed to pay me the extra money I demand to be on camera.
Can you believe it?
You have paid for the voice, and that is all you get.
I have taught my son well. Capitalism means that whatever your giftedness is, whatever your skill set is, get paid!
The way I like to see it, capitalism means you got to capitalize on your gifts.
That's it. See what I've done? And that type of investment in his college education and the years and years and years of money and blood, sweat, and tears that I had to put in for my son has at least finally paid off because, as I said, he works now at Lowe's. Mm-hmm. Wyatt, how long you want to work at Lowe's?
As long as I need to and not a second longer.
Okay, well. And do you have clocks so you can check that second?
Do you?
I don't. I thought, does Lowe's have clocks?
Actually, we don't. We have our like phones we use to scan merchandise.
Okay. There's no clocks in Lowe's. So it's like a casino. You get in there, you don't know how to get out. There's no clocks. You don't know what's going on. And next thing you know, you're betting and hitting on 17 and buying stuff you didn't need.
It actually is exactly like a casino in that you will enter. You know exactly where the thing you want is.
Yeah.
You will go there, find out that we have changed its location, and by the time you find it, it is nighttime.
Nice!
And you've probably spent more money than you were ever hoping to.
And you're drunk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But that's from the thinner because they don't have alcohol there. So
Yeah,
you gotta drink
exactly.
paint
Like, you
that.
know.
Well, listen, here's something that happened to me. I got to tell you something about the Babylon Bee. So Seth, who owns it, or does he still have it? Yeah, I think so. Anyways, I had reached out to these guys a few times over the years because I just wanted to tell them thanks. I thought they were doing great work. They're Christian. As you guys know, so am I. So is moi. Moi as well. I is as well. I is as well. My English be good. And I love to see good quality Christians do good quality work. And these guys do. They're the best satirical site. Matter of fact, I think we can prove how great they are at their satirical work by being banned regularly on Twitter, maybe YouTube, I don't remember. The point is they're doing wonderful work. And for all of those out there that say, you conservatives aren't funny, how come you guys can't be funny? Well, we are. Matter of fact, they're so funny, they get banned by the leftists that can't handle the fact that they take them to the woodshed and spank their little rear ends until they're bloody and beaming. So that's what they're great at, and they are magnificent. And I had talked to them about, hey, if you guys ever want to do a television show or you need somebody, I'd love to, if you want to, if you think I might be a fit to be a person and speak and be one of your program hosts, because I just love your work, and man, I just think it'd be fun. It didn't pan out, of course, and they do have some live stuff they're doing now, and that's okay. It's like everybody has to choose what they're going, which direction they're going. Maybe that wasn't going to be for me, but at least I said to them, I'm a comic. I like to do this kind of TV stuff. I think you guys are really good, so I would love to be part of it if you want me. Anyways, I love their work, and they're very talented folks. Now, the reason I bring that up is because the last 2 weeks, Wyatt, has there been one thing that I've brought up in the last 2 weeks that I've been discussing. What was it?
It would be...
in regards to comedians.
Yeah, it's the idea that there's really no such thing as an original idea anymore. Everything's going to be derivative of something that came before it.
That's it. There's nothing new
Under the sun.
I've heard that.
Yeah, and I find it ironic since it's nighttime.
Yes, he's going back to that, and why wouldn't he? He's an astronomer in his spare time. Wyatt Riot? Wasn't that your first band? Wyatt Riot? Anyways.
Look, you're not getting past the fact that you have once again forgotten my name. You gave me the name. How can you forget it?
You know why I gave you that name?
So that you could forget it 25 years down the line?
You came from my loins, and I felt I needed to leave something that I could like, what I'd appreciate, and I think it's a strong name, Wyatt. Easily forgettable, clearly, but a good name.
I swear, that whole from your loins thing has become your Uno +4 card.
Yes, it is. Can you
it's-
do me a favor, tech boy? Can you use your mic periodically so they can hear you?
No.
Just move it a little bit closer to you, if you don't mind. Okay, he turned it away from me.
No.
He literally turned, my son, you're not seeing all his funny antics because he doesn't want to be on camera. You know why? He's shy. Why is he shy? Should we tell him, Wyatt?
Yeah, sure. I would love to hear your made-up reason. I mean your legitimate reason.
Incontinence. He is constantly incontinent, and it's embarrassing for all of us involved.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, and Lowe's has nothing for incontinence, if I'm not mistaken.
And guess what? That was caused by your weak genes.
Yeah, it's probably true. And if you've ever seen Wyatt's weak genes, you'll know what the incontinence can do to them. But that's not what we're here to talk about. What we're here to talk about is the Babylon Bee. Why? Because as I said to you people, I love them. They're brilliant. They're magnificent. They got great writers. And then something happened today that was shocking. So shocking that I thought it was a perfect time to bring it up for week 3 of the plagiarism theme. I showed you an idea that I had come up with a few years prior to a Jim Gaffigan theme and said to you guys, Jim Gaffigan's a great writer, doesn't need me, and I'm almost sure he didn't take anything from me, but I wanted to show how two comics can come up with similar concepts years apart and not even know it happened. That's how comedy works. Well, guess what happened to old God's comic Brad Stine and the Babylon Bee? After my breakout album, 2003, Put a Helmet On, the next year things were getting so hot for me and wound up and getting such a kind of a burst onto the scene, I needed to get another album out that next year immediately. And I did. And the name of that second album was called Tolerate This. No, it wasn't. Wyatt, I was completely wrong. That was my third album. The second album was A Conservative Unleashed. This was 2004. The whole idea of me coming out and saying, I'm a Christian, I'm conservative, I'm unapologetic, I'm a love America, I'm going to fight for it, I'm going to die for it, I'm going to use my free speech. I don't care if you guys try to cancel me. Long before there was cancel culture, I will stand for these values, and that's where I built my fan base. But guess what? In 2004, on Conservative Unleashed, I had a whole 1 hour worth of material that I was talking about. And one of those concepts actually was one of my most well-loved routines of all of them. If I took my top 10 of what people like, there would be Put a Helmet On, the actual original rant. There would be the Chinese chopsticks. There would be... I'm not sure what the other ones would be. I would have to think about them, but because I don't sit there and revel over what people love about my material. Wyatt, do you revel over my material?
No, but you seem to revel about your loins.
I do, because they made you. And so, guess what? I did another routine that actually has become a classic of mine by how people say they like it. It's about Adam naming the animals. And so to show you what it can look like and why it can be so easy for people to be accused of plagiarism or copyright infringement or saying, oh, you're just stealing from this guy or that guy. Let me show you. And remember, I preface it with how great I love Babylon Bee. Really do. 2004. How many years ago was that?
18.
18 years ago, little Bradley boy wrote and performed this clip. Enjoy.
Now, I got to tell you something. I feel sorry for Adam and Eve because, I mean, they were the first people. A lot of pressure being the first people. A lot of pressure being the first. Make one mistake, everybody reads about it. How would you like to wake up to that morning headline? Adam blows it for everybody. Crying out loud. So that they were Adam and Eve, given the opportunity, the keys to the kingdom, to go out and have a wonderful world that they can live with and be around God and hang out and be good. But were they grateful for that? No. You know why? I think what happened was they were given a few chores and they got a little bit crazy. Adam had the hardest gig. He had to name all the animals by himself. Think about that. Can you imagine having to name every animal there ever was and give it a creative name? That would be hard. That's why so many animal names are stupid. Adam got burnout. Gave out all the good names right off the bat. You shall be hippopotamus. Big 12-letter creative name. Go forth, hippopotamus. 10 hours later, cow. Cow, I guess. I'm running out of letters. I had another one. Yak, 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 yak. By the time the bugs got in line, he just named them whatever they were doing. Fly. Of all the amazing things that fly in this world, fly got the name. That's when God stepped in. I'll take it from here, Adam. Thanks anyways. I was gonna stop you after the grasshopper, but I gave you one more shot. He called a fly a fly. You know the duck was right in front of him going, come on! Fly, duck. But God had to put a kibosh. He had to stop it, otherwise the fish would be a swim. Dog's a doo-doo. Cat's a waste of money. It would have been ridiculous. Do we have any cat lovers out there? We got cat people? We do, okay. Look, I don't want to put you out. I don't want to lose you. I don't hate cats if they just stay in the road where they belong.
So that is an 18-year-old joke about Adam naming the animals. Why do I bring that up? Look at the title of the Babylon Bee's latest. Can you put it up again, Wyatt?
Yeah, I thought you said you wanted it immediately when it.
Oh no,
yeah.
but I want to. But go ahead and throw it back
Yeah,
up there
okay.
so I can talk about it. Lazy Adam. Just going to call this one Fly. Now, I'm going to read it to you guys. I have to. Here's what Babylon Bee said today. You can take it off and go back to me.
Cool.
Garden of Eden. Alaxadaisial Adam really phoned it in with his latest animal name, deciding to just call the flying bug he was presented with Fly. Really? That's the best you got? Boomed the voice of the Lord Almighty. I gave you one job, man. I knew I should have named these things myself. Just last week, I spent all this time lovingly designing this amazing creature. And Adam looks up and says, Peacock, give me a break. I'm running out of ideas, okay? Said Adam. Gee, running out of ideas. You mean like running out of letters? Like I just said 18 years ago? As he sprawled out on the grass. I nailed rhinoceros and hippopotamus. Oh, wait, you mean like when I said hippopotamus? Pretty proud of aardvark, but there are so many animals to name, and I just want to actually enjoy literal paradise. Let's get this over with. Adam then proceeds to dole out names: blobfish, mountain chicken, and crazy ant. If they wanted to, they could have thrown in yak. That was what I came up with 18 years ago. An exasperated God finally put a stop to the naming after Adam declares one of the Lord's creations Dick. Wyatt, don't laugh at their plagiaristic nonsense.
I'm sorry, they just reminded me of that animal and how ridiculous its name is. Do you want me to put up a picture of what it looks like, actually?
Yes, find a dick and put it up. And you're telling me this is appropriate for a Christian podcast?
It's a kind of bird, yeah.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Actually, no, it's a deal. It's a, here we go. Let's see, save image as...
So, the point of the matter is, and I'm going to reiterate, I love the Babylon Bee. I will support them 100% forever. I love what they're doing. I hope they keep it up. I hope they become massively popular. They should. They're brilliant. They're sophisticated. They're intelligent. They're nuanced. They're creative. They're exactly what every Christian artist should be, the best of the best of the best. And so I'm not against them, nor am I accusing them of plagiarism. I don't believe that they stole it. Could have. We know that people have gone on and found old routines of different comics and turned them into sketches for, an SNL, or different comics have stolen bits. So if you would, like they used to clues Amy Schumer or what's the guy, Hispanic guy that Joe Rogan got all over. Anyways, of stealing stuff. So sometimes you would compare the bits and they were so similar. You're like, somebody must have taken this. But nevertheless, they used hippopotamus, they used fly.
And I have the...
oh, yeah. And by the way, if you don't know what a dick is, and that was what they thought was funny, put it up there wide so everybody can see. This, believe it or not, is a dick.
It's basically a deer that skipped leg day home.
Okay, let's see. That's a deer that skipped leg day. That's funny.
Actually, its legs are just bones. It's just bones with skin on them.
Why did you make that up?
Yes,
it's just,
I did.
That's funny. Put it back on to me. That was funny. Listen, I give my son credit where credit's deserved. And he said it's basically just a deer that skipped leg day. And I laugh because I'm looking at it and it's funny. Well, anyways, so the long story short, it is parallel development. People 15 people can come up with some routine about Adam naming the animals. Fly, hippopotamus, all the things. Does it seem a little too on the nose? Yes. But again, I'm going to give him the benefit of that. And if perhaps the guy nabbed my bit and rewrote it and stuck it out there, if that happened, I will never know. I'm not going to sue him. It's not that. I'm grateful they're out there. But if he did, hey, if you're going to steal it from me, that's a compliment. You like my work, I like your work. We'll leave it there. I haven't seen anything else even close to what I do, so I do not and will not, like I said, I hope you know I'm joking about plagiarism. But I just wanted you to see, for all the people out there saying, oh, you stole George Carlin. I get so tired of it. You stole George Carlin. He's doing George Carlin's act. No, I'm energetic, yeah. And people said, oh, you're like Robin Williams. And I like to use words. And I like to be intelligent. Oh, you're like George Carlin. Oh, and you blah, blah, blah. And then they say Dennis Leary, and that's just, I kind of look like him. I don't do any jokes from any of those guys. Write my own stuff. But is there some elements of my delivery style that you could say look similar to that? You better believe it. And unless you no longer want bands to use guitars because somebody used it first, quit acting like an idiot. People use similar ideas from other people and stick them out there. So just keep that in mind. Speaking of keeping that in mind, do we have our friend Rick?
We have friend Rick.
Okay, well, here's the thing. So, folks, listen to me carefully. I got such great response from all you guys last week for my time with Rick Green, America's Constitution coach. I wanted to bring him on again this week because, first off, it's never too late and never unimportant to know as much as you can about the Constitution, because that's the rule book for America that tells us what our rights are as American free men and women. So we need to know about it. I wanted also to let you know that Rick and I are about to start next week a 2.5-week Texas tour. Yes, I'll still be on Mondays. We'll figure out how, but I'll be here, so don't worry. But I will be touring Texas. So if you are Texas, which, by the way, in my Facebook followers, who I think I have 280,000 followers. The majority of my followers are in Texas. So if you're in San Antonio, or if you're in Dallas, if you're in Houston, wherever you might be, come on out, come see. You want to see me live? I'm going to be there with America's Constitution coach. As a matter of fact, I'm going to bring him here, but just to let you know, as you know, over the last few times we've tried it, once in a while, when we try to do these interviews over live, sometimes there gets a lag behind when it's trying to boot up and take the information and send it over to you. So his it gets out of sync. Last week he shut off his camera, and if it starts getting out of sync, we'll shut him off and we'll put up a picture so you don't have to get distracted and you can listen to his answers because they're brilliant and important. But when he came back on, everything was synced. So we might even try that this time in case he gets out of sync. I'm just forewarning you. So if it suddenly goes dark and it just becomes a picture, hang on. I'm still going to ask questions. If I see a question from one of you guys as I'm talking, if I see one and we're not in the middle of something else, I might even ask that for you so you can get your question answered. But please welcome my Stine Has Issues friends and family and patriots, America's Constitution coach, Rick Green. Can you bring him on with me, Wyatt?
Now, I knew that you were creative, and I knew that you were always looking for ways to turn off my camera or mute my microphone. But this
there he is. Am I using this?
You were creative.
Okay, I think you have, because you have the Facebook thing on. If you have your Facebook on, and it's...
Okay, which one am I going to use?
You're using your audio, but you just get rid of the Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you.
Yep.
Rick! I hear you.
Can you hear me, brother? Okay.
Can you hear me?
See, I can't hear him. Are you there?
Yeah, you have to put the things on.
Can you hear me now?
You should hear him through that.
I see you.
Can you hear me,
I hear
Rick?
you. Do you hear me?
I don't hear him.
You don't hear me?
I don't hear him. Why do we always go through this? Crazy.
It's because the
You're all
content is
turned up
so
and you can hear me.
good that the tech gods try to stop it.
There he is. All right, I'm going to have to use my this. Okay. All right, we're here. We're back. We're live. We're happy. Everything is good. Rick, did you like Babylon Bee?
I love Babylon Bee. Yes.
Me too. Well, last week when you were on, I'm going to tell you about the Babylon Bee here for a second, then we're going to go into our interview. Last week when you were on and we got that lag, you turned off your camera. So guess what I did? I got a picture of you on the internet. And if we go back and you have to go black, we're going to put a picture up so it doesn't look ridiculous, like we're the biggest idiots of all time. But when you came back on, everything was synced. I don't know if turning off your camera on had anything to do with it, but just letting you know, apparently whatever is from your end is the lag. So I'm just letting you know if we start getting way behind, so it's just difficult for people to watch, just turn the camera off and we'll just keep talking because they're listening. They loved you. That's why I brought you back on. But most importantly, before we get going, I wanted people to know, and I hope you heard the intro, you and I have a big, giant, holy smoke tour coming that is going to light up Texas and make it even bigger than it is, which is a tall order. Tell me about how you came up with, and I'm giving you all credit, this is a tour you created based on your Patriot Academy and your work in Texas and around this nation to defend the Constitution. Can you tell us what prompted the tour and what you're trying to accomplish?
Well, man, it's just like we've talked about before. We do these shows around the country, and everybody loves it. They love coming out and having the chance to laugh and learn and to be taught about liberty in a fun way. They're sick of the boring history, but they know something's wrong with the country. And, you know, from the first time you called me, I was trying to remember that today, if it was 8 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever that was, it was really your idea to make this kind of learning fun. And that's when we came up with the Comedy Constitution. And so for the tour, I just said, man, this is my home state. I want us to get in as many towns across Texas as we can so that we inspire them to do what they need to do locally, to win back their schools, to win back their churches, to get people involved in liberty. So I think we're up to 16 dates now, 15 or 16 dates. And we're literally hitting the whole state. I mean, we're going to be in the Dallas area, Houston area, Austin area, San Antonio area, West Texas, all the way out to Midland. I mean, you name it. And it's going to be good, bro. We got tons of people already signed up. We're doing it for free, so people can come. All they need to do is register because we're maxing out at most of these events. And so we want you to register so we know when to cut off the tickets. But, man, we're going to have a great time. It's going to be fun.
And there's a couple special nights that have some extra guests. Can you tell them about that?
Yeah, so one of the events is actually at the American Journey Experience. If folks don't know what that is, that's Glenn Beck's combination with David Barton, where they took their two libraries and museums of amazing artifacts, documents, founding fathers, original letters, all kinds of stuff, and they combined them into the American Journey Experience, and they actually have a facility there where you can tour all of those things, and they also have a meeting room. And so we're going to do Friday night the 22nd and Saturday the 23rd as essentially a live biblical citizenship class, which means all the people that have been in all of our various programs, from you to Alan West to Kirk Cameron, David Barton, Tim Barton, Pastor Rob McCoy, all those people are going to be there live, and people will get to meet them. They'll get to hear from them live. This one is limited. That one does actually cost because it is so limited, and you get the tour and all that stuff. But all of that stuff's at our website, patriotacademy.com. I put a link. I don't know how the chat works in this particular program, but there's a link I put in the chat. I don't know that's not the Facebook chat. That's this other chat. I'll put it in the Facebook chat. And that way people can go and learn more. Plus, just watch your Facebook feed because you're going to be sharing about those dates as well.
Now, you said that weekend with Alan West and Kirk Cameron and so forth, that is going to be also live broadcast. So people watching on my podcast right now, is there a way they can watch it, you're saying, while it's happening?
That one is not going to be live. We were going to stream it. We thought about streaming it, and it's just so much happening that weekend that we just decided not to bite that off because we wanted to make sure if we did it right. So as of right now, we're not planning to. If something happens and we end up with the manpower and the bandwidth and the dollars necessary to do it, we may add it. But for right now, we're not planning to stream that.
Okay, but the other ones are, or which ones can people get on and see?
Well, the only ones that they'll be able to get on and watch, we're going to pick a couple of the dates to stream. Not the full weekend thing that I was just talking about where all those speakers are going to be there, but one of our other events where it's probably just you and me and you know, a live event at one, you know, we'll pick a date and we'll provide a live version for people to be able to watch. We'll just stream it on your Facebook page and my Facebook page.
Okay, great. Well, that would be great. I mean, and I was, and I think we might have mentioned this once. Maybe a Monday night, because that's when I do my podcast. If it doesn't matter, that might be a replacement for the podcast. They
Oh,
can
that'd be
actually
great.
watch you and I doing a live event. These guys show up anyways, and if we could, and we're on the same Central
Yeah.
Time, they're used to that. Might be an interesting special occasion. And then I know my podcast does get reshared a lot, so it could get out in the atmosphere that way. And I'm sure you got
Yeah, man.
equally
Let's
the
do it.
same issue. So that might be a smart way to really get the message out there. But also, I want people to know this isn't just, even though this is a Texas tour, because that is your wheelhouse. That's where you have your most connections and the most people that help and support what you're doing. But hey, you are more than happy to do a tour of Iowa or heck,
That's right.
New England or Florida or California. And I know we joke about that, but you know what? They need it. They need it
Amen.
more than anybody else. There's
Amen.
so many conservatives in California that, because I came from there, that are heartbroken. They're stuck in a state that they love that is falling to pieces in front of them. And what can you do? It's kind of like being a Ukrainian. 6 months ago, you're like, what is going on? I just wanted to go to work, and next thing you know, I'm getting invaded. Well, California got invaded with stupidity, and it's
Yep.
costing them. And America is getting invaded with stupidity, and that's what you and I are trying to talk about. But what? But
Hey, speaking of
Rick, those
California, though,
things.
man, we are going to do a Comedy and Constitution there in July. At least one. We
Oh,
may do
nice.
3. We're trying to nail that down. But right now, we're doing for sure one at Thousand Oaks, California, at Pastor Rob McCoy's church. We're going to be doing a Comedy and Constitution on the 3rd, July 3rd,
Oh,
and
nice. Okay.
I think that's going to be fun. So
That will be lots of fun. Well, Rick, I don't want to, waste time with just giving a commercial about our thing, but I know people are interested, and
yeah,
that you've been a really big hit on my podcast. People love it. There's just not a lot of guys that go around as an expert on the Constitution that people have access to and can, in layman terms, help them understand their rights as
yeah,
Americans. And listen, the sad reality is you can have all the rights in the world, but if they're circumvented and nobody does anything about them, they don't really do you much good. It's all on paper if nobody is holding government officials' feet to the fire and say you don't get to breach this, which is exactly what happened over COVID.
yeah,
Absolute. The Constitution might as well not have existed, because it wasn't even referenced
yeah.
outside of those of us trying to say, you can't do this. What is going on?
That's right.
Anyways, so it made me wonder about the two Americas that we seem to have. There's, the easiest terms that kind of started it was the blue states and the red states. Of course, it started out conservative and liberal. Now it's really more conservative and leftist. That's the problem.
It's true.
Red state, blue states. You're the one that first posed the idea that perhaps there will be a splitting of America, as people will simply gravitate to the state that has more of their values, and we remain a United States in principle, but we no longer all share the same values and the same ideas. And so I guess that would be certainly an organic way for us to find our tribe. I don't know
Yeah.
that's going to be the healthiest way for America to survive, but it made me wonder, since you're an expert on the Constitution and the beginnings of the Constitution, one of the things that was really interesting to me at that time when they were at the convention and they were trying to decide, man, we're about to do something amazing here. We got to do this just right. And of course, people had difference of opinions. What should be the Bill of Rights, or should there be a Bill of Rights, or what exactly are we creating, or what are going to be the laws? And you had maybe the first indication of what Americans might face as they disagree and yet try to find
Yeah.
compromise. And that was with the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. Now,
Yeah.
are you saying to me that at that time, prior to the government becoming what it was in the United States, let me make it clear, the United States becoming the powerhouse that they couldn't have possibly realized how big America was going to become. But can you just tell my people a little bit about the idea of why were there people in in these sessions, this constitutional convention, that really wanted big government. When it seems as though the Revolutionary War was all about breaking away from big monarchy, of course, but big
Yeah.
control over the citizenry. Can you explain why some people felt, let's start brand new and make sure we're ruled by an elite few of federal government officials? Or, anyways, can you break that down
Yeah.
to why
Yeah,
that
no,
was a
I
factor?
would actually argue that none of them would have been for that. That the difference between the Federalist and the Anti-Federalist was actually much. They were much closer than we are today in terms of blue and red
Okay.
by far. In other words, they would have both been red states. What they didn't
Okay.
want, what neither of them wanted, the Federalist or the Anti-Federalist, neither of them wanted the federal government to micromanage our lives. The
They
difference
didn't.
was
Okay.
that the Federalists believed that the limitations in the Constitution would be followed and that the federal government would stay inside that box, because the original Constitution only gives 15 enumerated powers to the federal government and everything else goes to the states. Well, the Anti-Federalists said, I don't know. We're not sure that they will stay inside that box. We're afraid that if we create a federal government that has those 15 powers, that they will then start grabbing more power to the point that we won't be able to stop them. And so they actually fought against the Constitution. So you even had some guys that were at the Constitutional Convention, like Colonel Mason. George Mason had a lot of influence on the Constitution, but then when it came time for ratification in Virginia, he fought against it because he felt like he didn't have the Bill of Rights in it. He had refused to sign at the convention, and it didn't end the slave trade. And he was afraid there weren't enough protections against the federal government. So it wasn't that either group or any founding fathers wanted this big behemoth national government. None of them wanted a national government. They all wanted a form of federalism that limited the federal government and gave most of the power to the states. They disagreed on strategy and they disagreed on the parameters that were put into the Constitution. And the Anti-Federalists just said, we don't have enough protection here. Patrick Henry was one of those. He fought against ratification. It turns out, if we look in history, the Anti-Federalists were right. The federal government did not stay in its box, and it gave itself all these new powers and expanded way beyond what even the Federalists in the founding period wanted or supported. Federalists would have been folks like George Washington and John Adams, Alexander Hamilton. Hamilton's probably the closest one. You can't really call him big government, because even the things that he did in terms of expanding the federal government into having some banking influence and that kind of thing, even then he still wanted it to be extremely limited. So there were no big government liberals in the founding period. They were just shades of red, if you will, in terms of how we think today. I'm not saying they were all Republicans, because we didn't even have a Republican Party at the time. They were just different shades of how much power the federal government should be given. And don't forget, Brad, the reason they even came together in the first place to do the new Constitution was because the Articles of Confederation were not working. We were trying to have a nation, but nobody was paying the bills for the war. You had states that were preventing people from other states from coming in and being able to sell their goods or compete in a free market kind of way. And so there was no power at the federal level to create a level playing field so that we had one economy and all people, merchants and stuff could go in between all these different states and sell to everybody. And so the idea was we need to have some more uniformity among our 13 at the time states. And today, I think what you said is right. I think you got to go back to what even the Federalists wanted in 1787. And that is that each of our 50 states now should be able to be very unique, and they ought to be able to live like they want to live. And the only things that we come together on are those 15 enumerated powers in the original Constitution, and then we have 2 new ones in the amendments, such as being able to outlaw slavery. So I think those 17 powers, that's all the federal government should be able to do, and that doesn't address things like marriage and a lot of those issues that really do divide us now in the culture. We're very split in this country over things that you and I care very much about, and I hope and I pray we have revival, and that all 50 states stop going down that road to socialism, stop going down the pro-abortion, crazy sexual agenda that is sexualizing our kids and all that. I pray that all 50 states will have a revival and move away from that. But if that doesn't happen, we're going to end up killing each other in a civil war if we don't find a way to let people be very different and say, let them be their way and we'll be our, and then everybody votes with their feet. And then you'll end up with some really red states, some really blue states, and probably some purple states, that, just are kind of in the middle. But I think that's a free market approach, and I think it's the best way to go.
Well, and I guess so what is interesting then with your explanation there of anti-federalists and federalists was that the federalists, as you said, maybe weren't big government as we know it, but they trusted them. They trusted that this is going to be a good group of folks because they were very much about the idea that you must be a religious nation, that you must be a religious people. They said that numerous times. This isn't some kind of right-wing rhetoric to try to make us into a theocracy or a Christian nation. Well, they were never a Christian nation. That's all. They can't say it fast enough. We were never a Christian nation. And then they go to the Treaty of, whatever it was, Napoli or something. I forgot. But anyways, but the idea
Tripoli.
of trust.
The Treaty of Tripoli. And they only quote the first half. They ignore the second half. But anyway, yeah. Let's go ahead.
But the idea that there would be groups of people that would have such confidence in the integrity of leaders and men who are responsible.
No, man, I don't think so. I disagree. No, I don't think they did. I think even the Federalists had, in fact, James Wilson. I'm sorry, James Madison said that there's no, and here's a super Federalist, right? I mean, this guy's instrumental and leads the fight in Virginia for ratification. But he said, the Constitution is a limited one, possessing no power not actually given and carrying on its face a distrust of power. So even the Federalists did not trust mankind. They knew the heart was evil. They did not trust the system. And that's why they were so adamant about these checks and balances. That's why when George Mason got up at the end of the convention and said the only thing they actually all agreed on and didn't debate was on September 15th at the very end when Mason said, we've created a federal government that only can amend the Constitution as the federal government, which means if they get outside their box, they're the only ones that can put themselves back in. He said that won't work. The states need to be able to push the feds back in their box through constitutional amendments, and the feds should have nothing to do with that process. And it was a mic drop moment. Everybody agreed. It was unanimous. It was the only thing they agreed on. So even Federalists and Anti-Federalists, even pro-Constitution at the end of the day and anti-Constitution, they all agreed we cannot trust the federal government. It's kind of like Ronald Reagan. I don't have my coffee mug, but trust but verify, right? It was, we're gonna loan the federal government these powers, but man, we're gonna have all these tools, all these checks and balances to take that power back or to put them in check. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just don't want anybody to think that any of the founders were believers in big government or that they trusted mankind. They knew we were depraved. They didn't trust each other. They wanted those checks and balances on each other as well.
No, and I'm glad that you did that. I mean, that's why we talk and discuss and try to get clarity. And if there's a giant missing hole in America, it's being able to make this conversations be wrong, be misinformed, be uneducated, and not get in trouble for simply being ignorant.
Right.
Let's talk about this crap and figure this out.
Amen.
So
we're all ignorant, man. We're all ignorant about some of this. About a ton of stuff on the Constitution and history and everything else. That's why we learn ignorance is curable. We get to talk about it and learn new stuff. I love it.
Well, so let me do this then. And okay.
Question.
Okay, I got a question for somebody. I want to ask you, Rick, from one of my podcast viewers live here. It's from Adam Thorne. Do you feel the Republic died in 1913 with the passage of the 16th and 17th Amendments?
I think it was very wounded. Let me say it that way. I think both of those are horrible amendments to the Constitution. 1913 was a horrible year for America. It was when the progressives really, probably their most successful year up until 2021. And 2021, the progressives once again have moved our nation significantly to the left. The income tax, the Constitution allowed for an income tax, but it had to be apportioned evenly among the states. You had to, like, if Texas was 10% of the population, then the total income tax from Texas couldn't be more than 10% and had to be 10%. And so you had to work that out and make it fair, basically, on a state by state basis. So the 16th Amendment, all it did was exempted the income tax from the from having to be apportioned. So that's also why, Brad, just an interesting tidbit, since Joe Biden wants to create a wealth tax, that's why a wealth tax is unconstitutional. If you say to a billionaire, because you have $1 billion in assets, we're going to tax you 20% of whatever that is, or you're going to pay a minimum of 20%, or however you try to create that. You're violating what the Constitution specifically says in Article 1, Section 8 about having to make that apportioned evenly among the states. I said 8. I think it might be Article 1, Section 9. But anyway, so all of that to say, 16th Amendment, really bad, but it wasn't by itself enough to ruin the country. It was just a way for them to get more of our money and then grow. If we had stopped them from growing, we could have stopped that in its tracks. I think the 17th Amendment, it may be even worse than the 16th. I say in my Constitution classes, 17th is the second worst and 16th is the worst, the income tax. But the more I see the federal government out of control and the U.S. Senate doing nothing to stop it from being out of control, the more I realize the 17th is where we really lost it. Because the 17th, what it did was it basically took away the buffer of the states having control of the U.S. Senate. Prior to the 17th Amendment, your U.S. senators were chosen by the state legislature, and the Congress, the House, was chosen by all of us individually. We elected our individual representatives. So the House was always going to try to grow the federal government because they want to be able to come home and say, Brad, I'm going to get $1 million for the local library. I'm going to take care of that road over there. Or all these things that they shouldn't be doing. It should be done by the state. They're always going to do that. Nature of man. But the Senate, when they came home for re-election, who was their audience? The state legislature. So they would never say to the state legislature, hey, I was thinking about creating the Department of Agriculture so that I could have a big agency in Washington, D.C. so that you don't get to have a Department of Agriculture at the state level. Well, then that legislature would say, you're out of here, buddy. We don't need you at the federal level. Bottom line is changing the U.S. senators to no longer be held in check by the state reps and state senators. And now they come home to you and say, Brad, I'm going to get this for you. And Rick, I'm going to get this for you and all that. Now you have this hockey stick growth of the federal government because there's no check and balance now. There's no way for the states to say to the federal government, stop getting on our turf. You're only supposed to do those 15 things in the original Constitution. You're not supposed to have a Department of Education, Department of Agriculture, FDA, FTC, all of that stuff. That's our business at the state level. There was nobody to say that because the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House was all coming home to the masses instead of coming home to the legislature. So that's a really long way of saying 1913, we didn't die, but we were mortally wounded because we have not addressed that wound. It's why I really want to repeal the 17th Amendment and go back to the state legislatures being able to at least keep one half of Congress in check. The House is going to be crazy always, but keep the Senate in check. And you can only do that if you have someone to hold them in check. And, you know, Brad, I don't know how many people are in Nashville now. You guys are what, 15 million, 10 million? I don't know. We're 33 million in Texas. Who can get a meeting with their U.S. senator? You can't. I mean, it's very hard to do. Even in the small states, that's hard to do. But I guarantee you, if they were chosen by their state reps and state senators like it used to be, they would go meet with those legislators and they would stop doing things in Washington, D.C. that are only supposed to be done at the state level.
Well, and maybe a convention of states can readdress that and try to put that into play. That would certainly be one of the prime objectives, I'm guessing, based on what you're saying. Is certainly the convention of states are going to be by more conservative people are interested in that. Obviously, the left knows that if we get that put into place, that they're going to be at least brought to task on some of these things. Whether we'll pull it off, I don't know. But they know none of their concepts are going to be enjoyed.
Their pet projects are the ones going on the chopping block. They know that.
Sure.
And I misspoke when I said that without when the 17th Amendment did that it gave us no check and balance on the federal government. That's not true. The Convention of States, what you just mentioned, is a check and balance on the federal government. It's just so much harder to do. You've got to get 34 states to call for the convention. Then you got to have the convention, propose amendments. It goes out to the states and 38 have to ratify. Now, I'm a big proponent of that. We just got our 19th state. South Carolina just joined the call last week since you and I talked. So, I mean, there's momentum, and I believe that's the only way we save the republic. But if we hadn't had the 17th and we had convention of states, it just gives you more bullets, right? More tools to be able to hold the federal government in check instead of just having this one tool that is so big and so hard.
Well, and let me answer this. So one of the things that I think is also challenging with Constitution and constitutionality with certain subjects is that, if abortion comes up clearly, and they're thinking that may be something that might be in trouble with the Supreme Court, if you're anti-abortion, you want them to rule in your favor. If you are pro-choice, you want them to rule in your favor. Clearly, that's what you want. As though it's a as though we're looking at it as a, I don't know, a majority rules kind of approach to an idea, which isn't really what was supposed to be the case, whether you liked it or not. And we have to accept this, is that the Constitution is supposed to be the key to how all of these things are adjudicated. And that might mean sometimes you're not going to get your win because otherwise it will breach the Constitution, which it should happen that way. If the bad
Even
law
if you have
was
the
written,
majority.
yeah. And if the law was written in a way that was bad or in some ways wasn't breached the Constitution, whether I like that law or not, I should be willing and accept that loss, because we need that place to go back to and say, here's the rules, as we've talked about. And as long as they can be manipulated, then we're never going to have that ultimate sledgehammer that says this is it and it can't be changed. And I say, and the reason I bring up this sort of long-winded approach is I'm looking at the tech censorship. Elon Musk just bought, I think he's got the number one
9.2%, buddy. 9.2%.
Majority shareholder of.
He's the largest shareholder. I love it.
Do you think he's got something in mind? I don't know. I mean, you might have a wind or some gut instinct as what he might have planned. The guy seems to be a maverick. I mean, he certainly seems to be a big proponent of freedom of speech and freedom of will for all people. But what I wanted to find out was, with the tech censorship, which we know is true, we don't have to keep revisiting. Oh, it looks like I got censored on Twitter. Can you believe they did it? We know it. We know it. We know it. It's nothing to talk about. Censored Christians and conservatives are censored on these platforms. So what I want to get your thoughts on when it comes to the Constitution, we might have talked about this before, but it gives us a little bit more time, is when you have a privately owned business, which I put together on my own, and it happened to blow up and become the default go-to for communicating. So it becomes almost a public entity by default. If I was a business creator and my company took on that kind of weight, I'd be so grateful. Holy smoke, this is bigger than I could have imagined. I didn't plan for that. I still own it, theoretically. So it seems as though it's protected. And so this is what I wanted to say to you. Isn't there kind of this odd double-edged sword of trying to keep because I don't want somebody telling me how to run my business.
Right.
So
Or
is there
anything?
So is there anything in these platforms that have taken on a different weight and a different authority than they had started out with?
Yeah.
But it becomes so ubiquitous that they're almost like the guy that created cell phones saying, tomorrow Christians can't use cell phones. It would be that devastating to human beings. Or if government, or if now we're seeing that a bank could just say, I've decided that you don't get to vote that way, or I'm just deleting your account and your money disappears. That's where we're at with tech.
Yeah.
So, I think you see where I'm going.
Yeah, no, I think you're right on, man. I think there is. I think there is. I think it's different than just a private entity. It's no longer a private entity for two reasons. And by the way, Elon Musk. So this, I'm really, it's like, let the games begin, right? The fact that he bought 9.2%. And I just can't wait to see what he's going to do. Because I think he was trying to decide, do I start one from scratch and just compete with them and wipe them out? Or do I just go figure out a way to take them over and become such an influence? Right. And I don't know what he's going to end up doing. This will shock you, man. He just, they shut down his progress on his plant in Austin, Texas, because of a stupid salamander. They found some, bug or beetle or something. And so they've stopped him from being able to make any more progress. He got so mad about it because it is ridiculous. I wrote a paper in law school on this about how they take your property by stopping you from using it for anything but a bird sanctuary. And they're doing it with him over a salamander. So here's what he did. He gave this massive facility on a lease at $1 a month to the Travis County Republican Party to do whatever they want with it while he's fighting this in the courts. So he's like, I think the left needs some competition in Austin, Texas. So anyway, the guy is very, very intriguing to me. He's not a conservative Christian, obviously, you know that, but he is a lover of liberty. And I think free speech is very important to him. He understands why you have to have that to have liberty. So the two things that make it different, I used to be very much on the side of, hey, private company, if you don't want me on there and you want to kick me off because of what I'm saying, that's your platform. You created it. You have every right to do that. But two things changed it. Number one was the special favors from government that allowed them to become the big boys on the block. And number two was collusion with the government to shut people down. So first, they ended up with this Section 230 protections where you couldn't sue them, and they were supposedly neutral and all that. But then they started deplatforming, throttling, all the stuff they do to guys like you and me. And then you had the White House actually telling them who to deplatform and who to silence. I mean, that is total collusion where it is an unconstitutional infringement upon free speech. If they were purely private business with zero help from the government for either right away, like it's out, like with the telephone company, you're getting the ability to have in the old days the right away. So now you're the only one that has those lines, and government has gone out and purchased that right away for you to be able to do that, or it's made it possible for you to condemn it because it's a public utility. And if it's a public utility, you can't be in the middle of a conversation and the operator comes on, Mr. Green, we don't like what you're saying, so we're cutting you off right now. Just like you were saying. I mean, that would be insane. Nobody would accept that. It's the same way with these massive tech platforms that have become public utilities at this point because of the favors from the government and the collusion with the government. If you take those two things away, and I don't know that you can even do that at this point because it was used to beat the competition. It was used to become the behemoth. So it's a tough question. I've always been not for antitrust stuff. I think when IBM was the end-all be-all to computers, that it took the market to defeat them and compete with them. So look at what Steve Jobs did. Look at what Bill Gates did. That created competition. I think that's the right way to handle even the behemoths, unless they had government collusion and they had government favors to get there.
Well, so constitutionally, then, is that more of a sidebar of for legal way that you would approach this, or is there anything in the Constitution that does have some kind of limitations on who can have over something happens that gives somebody power that is no longer equal as an American citizen? That's what I wasn't sure. Right. If there's anything that could even be examined in the Constitution that would somehow fit that category.
I think the argument for a constitutional violation of free speech has to be based on the collusion argument, not even so much the favors with the Section 230 thing. I think with the Section 230 thing, you have to just take away their special protections and let everybody sue them, and then the market will take care of it. But to say that it's a violation of free speech, I think you do have to argue that that government has colluded to help them become the public utility and then told them silence that person. That's misinformation. When government starts saying what is misinformation and telling you to silence them, like what we saw with COVID, that is definitely a violation of free speech. And that should have stopped a long time ago. And of course, as you and I have talked about on all this stuff with the mask mandates, vaccine mandates, the silencing, the violation of free speech, all of that should have been shot down within 30 days by the courts. And instead, everybody was running scared and so afraid that somebody was going to die if they gave the wrong decision, instead of going for the principle, knowing we're all going to die at some point anyway, and bad things happen. You don't give up your principles out of fear. And that's what, frankly, the whole country did. I mean, there was very few people that stood firm, both in terms of elected officials and in terms of we the people. I mean, man, we were kind of lone voices out there. There weren't that many people saying what guys like you and I were saying. And it was disappointing. Look at all the pastors that said, if we love each other, we'll close down and we're going to do whatever the government says. We're going to fight. Even 2 years later, they're still saying that they should not open if the government doesn't want them to open. So it's it's been a really sad chapter in American history. And the danger is that they made it so easy to do it again and again and again.
Well, maybe people, I don't know. I mean, you're right. I don't have a lot of confidence. But, I mean, maybe somebody will think differently the next time around, especially if gas prices keep going up and food shortage. I mean, it's like this, they act like this is normal now. Everything's going to go haywire. But, just put up with it because that makes you a good American. Now suddenly, everything that goes wrong, if you complain, you're the problem.
Yep.
So anyways, well, listen, I don't know if this is a short question or not. I happen to get one more and I'll throw it in there because I don't oftentimes get a chance to ask for people. Earl Shank said, what led up to the Constitutional Convention of 1789? I'm not even sure what that means, what led up to that, but unless that was something that wasn't
it was, well, the convention itself was 1787 was when they got together that summer of 87. And then 89 was after you had enough states ratify that it actually went into place. And then you had that first Congress where they proposed the Bill of Rights. But in terms of what led up to the convention itself, it was what I was talking about earlier in terms of basically violations of free enterprise. It's interesting today, government violates free enterprise all over the place. Federal, state, local. It's insane how much government stops the market from being able to be free. And they were doing that. Some of the states were saying, we don't want your ships coming across the channel into our state. You have to stop on your side and let our ships come get you so that our guys can make money. You can't ship your bring your goods in and sell them because we don't want competition for, whatever the product might have been. And so that was a huge, huge factor. One of the other factors was that under the Articles of Confederation, they were really having a hard time collecting from the states on the debt, on the war debt. So they had a lot of debt after the Revolution, and a lot of states weren't paying their fair share, and there was no mechanism in the Articles of Confederation to do that. So, but I, from my reading of the founders, the number one reason was free enterprise. I mean, it was the motivation to stop these states from putting up roadblocks to the free market flowing. Of course, now we use and that's where the Commerce Clause came from. So people hear that phrase Commerce Clause. That was the whole point of the Commerce Clause, was not allowing states to create an unlevel playing field where people in their state had an advantage over people in another state. And now the Commerce Clause is used to create all kinds of regulations. I mean, virtually every government regulation, especially from the federal level, telling you how much wheat you can grow, how many what your bulbs have to be like, and how much water can go through. All this ridiculous stuff comes through the Commerce Clause. So they literally turned it on its head over the last 200 years to make it mean something the opposite of what it actually meant in 1787 when they had the convention. And that will only change with a convention of states. Mark Levin actually has an amendment to fix that, and it's a really good amendment. It basically reverses all the court decisions. I call it the courtstitution, and that's really what rules America right now. And Levin's amendment would overturn all those court decisions dealing with the Commerce Clause and go back to the original meaning of the Commerce Clause, which would wipe out a ton of departments at the federal level too.
Oh, and that'd be amazing. Well, so let me let you go. Is there going to be a link for the tour that we can put up that you can maybe post here? So that I
dropped it in the Facebook once, but let me drop it in there again just to make sure everybody sees it. And if for some reason they can't find it, just go to patriotacademy.com and they'll see your mug and my mug, and when they see that, they'll know they're at the right place.
And as you and I'm looking forward to seeing you and hanging out, and I know it's going to be a blast, and a lot of people are going to get charged up because they always do every time they come to these. They realize they're not alone, and America's not dead yet, and it's not going down without a fight. Is there anything you would leave patriots and people that perhaps aren't that educated in the Constitution but realize how imperative it is to really understand who they are and what they're standing for and what they're fighting for? Is there anything as a professional that does this all the time, with the highest ranks of officials to just the regular farming guy that's just trying to figure it out? Some of you would leave them with that they just need to be never forget or to inspire them as an American as to what is so essential to keep able to be free in the hopes that our liberties remain. Something you would want to leave someone with as as marching orders.
Well, you touched on it actually, and that is, number one, you're not alone. I know you feel like that sometimes, folks. I know you see this insanity that's happening in the culture, the crazy things that you never thought you'd see in your lifetime. We're living out Ronald Reagan's quote about possibly having to tell our children and our grandchildren what it was once like to live in America where men were free. We're watching this stuff happen. And don't think that means it's over. Don't think you're alone. Brad and I speak to hundreds of thousands of people every year that are patriots just like you. And then through radio and television, we talk to millions of people that are just like you. So you are not alone. And the second thing I would say is the principles of liberty still work. Be of good cheer. The laws of nature and nature's God do not change. There's always tough times. Read through the Bible, read through the Old Testament, and you'll see the children of Israel going up and down in much the same way as America. And so we're at a down point right now. But the good news is the principles haven't changed, and there's something you can do about it. You can be a part of the solution to get us back to an upward motion so that our children do live in freedom. And so last thing I'll say is don't think about what your freedom's worth to you. Think about what your child's freedom is worth to you. Think about what your grandchild's freedom is worth to you, and then let that motivate you to get involved. Become a Constitution coach. You don't have to know anything about all this. We'll train you on that. You get to use all the materials that Brad and I did together and that David Barton and I did together, and it'll allow you to teach people in your home or at your church with them. You're basically the lead learner. You don't have to be an expert. You're just getting the people in the room, playing the videos, and learning together. It's a fun way to restore the nation, and you can be a part of it.
Well, God bless you, brother. I look forward to seeing you in 1 week, and we will take
Yes, sir.
Texas. We will do some damage for the kingdom, my brother, one way or the other,
Amen.
as we always do. Hey, folks, say thanks to Rick Green.
Bro.
We're going to bring him on as often as possible. He's so great at this, and great. There's patriots like you out there, buddy. So thank you. God bless you, brother. All
Thanks,
right.
man.
Well, can you get me back on here so I can say goodbye to my people? Folks, thank you. Thank you for showing up. I know we've been going long the last few weeks, but I just feel like people seem to enjoy it. I'm trying to give you good quality content, stuff that can be helpful to you, that inspire you, that can educate you, but to motivate you to realize that everything that I've ever said as a comic, everything that I've tried to do as a Christian, as a man, as a conservative, when I came out and said, this is what I stand for, this is what I am unapologetically, and it was what I've tried to do just as a regular, one-of-a-kind citizen. And then I start meeting other guys like Rick, and I start meeting other guys like Kevin Jackson, where we were on the Unapologetically American tour. And then my show with Jonathan Chilafiero, the Italian immigrant who just released last week, I think, a single with Michael W. Smith. And he and I are doing the Spirit of America show. So it's happening, folks. We are going to fight. We're going to stand. And that's what I've wanted to do from the get-go. I never knew what my ministry was going to be or why my comedy that was just trying to be funny and stand for certain values suddenly turned into something bigger. I believe it's God's call in my life. This is what I stand for. This is what I believe in. You don't have to be a Christian to follow me. You don't have to be a Christian to laugh at me. There's a lot of atheists that like my work, and folks that aren't religious at all, but they're patriots and they care about freedom and liberty. And so that's what I'm for. If you believe in what I'm doing, and if you want to see me continue to try to build this type of podcast, as well as other materials that can go out virally, as well as these live events to defend freedom and religious liberties, then I need your support. This is how it happens. This is what's making this happen, because I had people that donated. Just say, show me a link. It's a 501c3. It's a nonprofit, because we're trying to do something that people aren't going to. You're not going to get government subsidies, not with this particular government, that's for sure. But this is what I'm doing, and I will continue to do it as long as God provides what is necessary. And I'm going to get out there and fight the good fight to inspire you to fight the good fight for your sphere of influence. I will be here all week. Next week, you heard that we might even do a live on a Monday night, Facebook Live. You might come on here at 7, and there we are in Texas at an event where you get to see me perform live, get to hear Rick teach, and you can become a Constitution coach, get all the materials, and start teaching people in your city, and make it the biggest platform for people to want to remember America and fight for its freedom. So that's why I'm here. All started in my laptop 2 years ago, and here we sit, growing and growing. God bless you for coming here. Thank you so much for the fans that come out every week, and there's more yet to come. Keep praying for my heart. I don't know how long I'm going to be here, but as long as I'm here, I'm going to fight, and I'm going to do whatever is necessary to let you know that everything that I speak about, I believe, and so I'm ready to die for it. But hopefully, I got a lot more years ahead. God bless you, folks. See you next week. God's comic, Brad Stine, saying peace ye free is liberty. And me, what's my mission? Putting the woke